Alright, we got a two-parter today. It's called My Boyfriend is Trying to Eat Me. That sounds kind of crazy to me, but hope you guys enjoy it. Appreciate the love and support on the last one. So, let's get into it. It started out on Tinder. Typical, I know. But I was desperate. I had just broken up with my first boyfriend ever and I was looking for a rebound. And that's when I found Leo. He was cute. He had shaggy black hair and brown eyes. His profile said he was 6'2", so I decided to swipe right, and to my surprise we matched. I thought he would be a reach as I didn't have a high opinion of myself back then. I was too nervous to send the first message and he didn't send one either, so I forgot about it for the rest of the night. The next night I went to a bar with some buddies from work. It was a shitty dive bar in the suburbs, but it was a fun way to catch up with friends. While we were there, I looked around the bar and was surprised to see that Leo was there. He was sitting in the corner by himself just sipping a beer. I was kind of shocked that he would be there, like fate had meant for us to meet in person and not get to know each other over a shitty Tinder conversation. After my friends left, I decided to stick around and try to strike up a conversation. I guess he had the same thought because as I was ordering another tequila soda, he came up to me and sat beside me. "Anna, right?" he asked. "Yeah. Leo?" And that was how it began. Delicate conversations at the bar, sleepovers in his apartment, sweet nicknames we text each other, all of the beautiful parts of young love. Over the next few months, we became inseparable. I would sleep over almost every single night. I felt like the protagonist of a rom-com, the quirky girl that manages to charm the guy who is way out of her league. I was enchanted with Leo, and he seemed enchanted with me. But that's when it started. The sickness. If I'm being honest, I should have seen it coming. There were red flags disguised as sweet nothings. Leo would always comment on how pure I was, so trusting and untouched by fear. I always thought pure was a strange term to use, but I figured it was his way of complimenting me. After a few months of us dating, I began to feel ill. It started off as drowsiness. I've never been one to sleep in. I can usually function perfectly fine after only 6 hours of sleep. But as time went on, I would sleep 7, 8, 9, 10, even 13 hours some nights. I'd never slept that much in my entire life. I could still go to work and run my errands at the time, see my friends and family, etc. And I missed that. Then the vomiting started. I've always had a fear of vomiting ever since I was a kid. I hated it. That feeling of your stomach turning inside out made me so uneasy. It was awful. Leo would comfort me, telling me it would pass. The first time I vomited was while we were watching Superbad. It was with his roommates, Alex and James. I felt sick and released the sickness, or so I thought. As a kid, my mom would tell me that vomiting would make me feel better and get rid of the toxins in my body. She told me that to make me less scared, and I believed her for a while. But this was the first time that I didn't believe her. I still felt sick, like my body was rejecting itself. After I was empty, that was all I was. Empty. And I couldn't tell why. Slowly, I became weaker. My joints ached. My head hurt. Everything was awful. Except for Leo. He took care of me and took pity on me. He gave me water, food, shelter, and I assumed it was out of love. And soon I couldn't walk. My legs felt so heavy. I could sit up and still eat and drink, but I couldn't walk without assistance. Leo had to walk me to the bathroom and help me shower. I couldn't go to work anymore because you can't really waitress if you can't walk. I became completely dependent on Leo. I felt pathetic, but grateful that I had someone so kind and caring to take care of me. At the time, I couldn't imagine what I would do without him. That's when I started waking up in the middle of the night. The first time it happened, nothing spectacular was going on. Leo was fast asleep next to me, and I discovered that at night I could regain some strength. I could wiggle my toes, and then I realized that at night I could walk. At first, I couldn't go very far, only to the bathroom and back, but it was better than nothing. I would wake up intentionally around 5 a.m. each morning. My internal clock has always been strong, so I managed to keep up the consistency for a few nights. I decided to not tell Leo my discovery, as I wanted to surprise him with the fact that I was getting better from my mystery illness. Sometimes I would even make it to the kitchen, and one night, the 7th night of my adventures, I went outside and looked at the stars. It was snowing, and the moonlight bounced off of the snowflakes and shimmered in my eyes. It was beautiful. The glimpse of freedom made me cry. I had no idea why I was sick or how to get better, but I realized that breathing the outside air felt better than the stale air in his apartment. My lungs felt clearer, and I even had the urge to run at one point. At the time, I thought it was silly, the idea of running in the snow with nothing on but pajamas. Thinking back, I should have taken my chance. That night I went back to bed, and the next morning I felt better. I decided that I would show Leo the progress I had made and surprise him by walking to the kitchen and making him breakfast the next morning. When he woke up, I stood with glee and waited for his reaction. Instead of being met with happiness or pride, his reaction was one of horror. He quickly shifted his reaction to one of a person scolding a dog for stealing food. "Anna, you should not be up," he said, a hint of anger lacing his words. "You are not better yet. Get back in bed." I stared at him, confused. Why is he not happy for me? Then he wrapped his arms around me and pulled me into a sitting position on his lap. "It'll all be over soon," he said, in a tone that I simply could not read. I had no idea what he meant by that. Unfortunately, I now know exactly what he meant. That day, I laid in bed, watching TikToks and the occasional YouTube video. When he was gone, I would get up, pace the room, and stretch. A thought crossed my mind. What would happen if I left? We had only been together for about 9 months now, and 4 of those months I'd spent cooped up in his room like a princess waiting to be rescued. I had never considered that I could leave. My car had been on the street. I could get up and leave and go home. He didn't even know that my car was there. I told him that I took the train. Had he figured out that my car was here yet? At this point, I didn't even suspect that Leo had harmful intentions. I was so naive. I still thought he cared about me. I decided to test this theory. Slowly, I stood up and made my way to the door. It was around 7 p.m., and Leo wouldn't be back for another hour. I had time. I reached my hand towards the doorknob. I twisted it and slowly opened the door. I peeked through the crack and saw James staring at me right back through the door. I jumped back as he slammed the door shut. Is he guarding me here? Why would he be keeping me in the room? He has to be pranking me or something. "James, let me out," I said, still not grasping the fact that I was in danger. "No," James said. "I can't do that." "I have to pee," I lied. "Please, I'll be quick." "No," James replied in a monotone voice. "Leo will be back soon. He can take you to pee." "James, let me the fuck out," I screamed, banging on the door. "Let me out." He opened the door fully, and then I was hit with a flash. The last thing I remember is hitting the floor. And I woke up in bed. My head was throbbing as I tried looking around. The room was dark and my body felt heavy. I checked my phone, and it was around 9:30 p.m. All of a sudden, my body went into fight or flight. Something was seriously wrong and I needed to get out. I opened my phone and started texting my mom. "Help. Something's wrong. I need you to come get me, please. I think he's trying to kill me." I tried sending the text, but it wouldn't go through. Why wouldn't it go through? Then Leo walked in. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Leo said. "Sorry, the Wi-Fi's down and the service is gone, so you can't go on TikTok. But that means we can spend more time together." "That doesn't just happen," I said. "Can I please go to the bar across the street? I need to check something." "Baby, it's snowing, and you're already as sick as a dog. Why don't you just go back to bed? I'm sure that it'll all be back tomorrow." "No, I need to go now, please," I begged, the fear evident in my voice. "I'll be quick." Leo's face changed, but only for a second. "Go to bed, Anna." A drowsiness I've never experienced suddenly came over me. I tried to fight it as Leo climbed into bed with me, turned on his TV, and then suddenly I was asleep. I woke up around what I thought was 5 a.m., but this time it wasn't from my internal clock. I could feel something on top of me. I wanted to open my eyes, but my instincts told me not to. I realized that it wasn't just something on top of me, but someone. Leo. I felt something on my face, almost like a wet tube salivating on me. There was a heavy pressure in my pelvic area too. My body felt limp. I couldn't move my arms or legs. The wet tube on my face started to feel like a hose sucking on my mouth and nose. I couldn't breathe. He wasn't kissing me. It felt like he was trying to remove all the air from my body, like deflating a balloon. He was sucking all the breath from my lungs, suffocating me, but somehow keeping me conscious and alive. Finally, I opened up one of my eyes. To this day, I'm still not entirely sure what I saw. Leo's entire jaw had come unlatched like a snake, and it was entirely covering everything on my face except for my eyes. His teeth were gone too. Instead, his gums pressed into my skin like a baby teething on a toy. His eyes had moved to the side of his head, right in front of his temples. In his eyes, all I could see was pure hunger. I felt something piercing me between my belly button and pelvis. It took everything in me not to scream. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything except lie there. Was he eating me? How many times had he done this? Get off of me. Get off of me. Get off of me. Get off of me. Everything hurt so much, and I couldn't do anything about it. I knew that the only thing I could do was remain still and quiet. If he knew I was awake, there was no telling what he would do to me. As he was finishing up, I felt something snap in my stomach, and my belly let out a groaning sound like my insides were screaming. I imagine this is what it feels like to give birth. It was the most pain I've ever been in. The only thing I could do to protect myself was fall back asleep. The next day, I woke up. It was dark outside. I checked my phone and realized that it was actually 6 p.m. the next day. How long had I been asleep, and what did he do to me? I tried sitting up, but found that I couldn't. I moved my arm again and took a look at it. It was so small, the size of a young toddler's. When did I start to look so malnourished? I couldn't move my legs or wiggle my toes. I slowly grabbed my phone and tried to text my mom again. There was service. I texted her the same message I tried sending yesterday. I almost started to cry. For the first time in months, I felt hope. I could get out, go to a hospital. I saw text bubbles appear, and the message I got back actually made me cry. Nice try, Leo. I have to get out of here. I took inventory of my body and its abilities. Could I walk? Could I move? Could I speak? Walking was a no-go. I removed the blanket from the lower half of my body and saw that my legs looked like twigs that would snap in an instant. My knees looked like tumors and every detail of my ankle bones were visible. My pelvic bone was sticking out and it looked like if I moved, it would pierce through my taut, pale skin. I attempted to wiggle my toes and the only ones that could move were my now knobby big toes. I tried my arms again. They could move, but incredibly slowly. My joints would crack and pop with each movement as if my body had aged faster than my brain. I could probably crawl if I tried, but not very far, and the thought of my bare bones grinding against hardwood floor was enough to make me squirm. My vocal cords vibrated, but my voice sounded like a croak, almost like that episode of SpongeBob where he's begging for water. I reached for my water bottle on the nightstand, but realized that Leo moved it away from the bed and to the desk on the other side of the room. God damn it, I thought. Now's the best time to test my abilities, I guess. I attempted to swing my legs over the side of the bed with my hips, but my stomach felt like it was going to implode any time I moved down there. I lifted my shirt and was horrified to see that right below my belly button was a giant swollen mass, a pus-filled wound that had been inefficiently closed up with some thread. I would have thrown up if I had any food in my system. Bracing myself, I decided to roll off the bed onto the floor. I hit the ground with a thud and army crawled towards the water bottle. It took some time to get used to. At first, I could feel my bones pressing against the hardwood floor, scraping against my skin and the floor, but I pushed past the pain. I could tell that my escape would be a big effort. After about a minute, I got to the desk. I reached my hand towards the water bottle and grasped it. As I brought it down to the floor, I noticed how heavy it felt. I used to be able to deadlift more than some of the men I knew, and now I can't even hold a fucking hydro flask. That's when it hit me. My water bottle's metal. If James is guarding the door and I can remain low to the ground, I can hit him behind the knees and take him out. But how would I run? I can't even walk. Logistically, I still have a window of time to get out. It's currently 6:15 p.m., and Leo won't be back until 8 p.m. Speaking of windows, there is a window in Leo's bedroom, but it's far too tall for me to reach and climb out of. My only real option is getting past James, and if it took me over a minute to crawl to a desk that was 2 feet away from me, then it would take me at least half an hour to crawl out of the apartment. Leo's bedroom is the furthest room from the front door, which I now know was on purpose. If I wanted to get out of here before Leo got back, I needed to start moving now. I crawled back onto the bed and grabbed my phone, my lanyard, and my purse. My crossbody purse and lanyard would be handy for combat since they don't require me to use my hands. My phone fit into the pocket of the shorts I was wearing. I debated taking my coat, but I realized that it was at the front door, so that would depend on how my current plan went. Once all my belongings were secured, I took a sip of my water. It was old and warm, but it was definitely water. And boy, it was fucking delicious. Whatever Leo was trying to do with me, he clearly needed me alive to do it, so he had no reason to poison me. I wanted to try and test my voice again, but I realized that James might be able to hear me if I did, so I decided to save that for later. Making as little noise as possible, I began to army crawl to the door. At this moment, I realized how ludicrous my half-baked plan was. But what other options did I have? For an extra boost of confidence, I took my inhaler out of my purse and hit it as an extra boost of energy, and my lungs felt immediately better. Fueled by the steroids in my lungs and unfounded confidence, I reached for the doorknob and opened it slowly. James was standing there facing away from the door. Before he could turn around, I slammed my water bottle into his left Achilles and then the back of his left knee. He cried out in pain and fell. That's when he spotted me. We locked eyes and then I screamed. Not a scream of fear, but determination. I screamed for myself and all the women Leo had taken before me. It was a battle cry. I used all my strength to move to my bony knees and slam the hydro flask into his forehead. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. I never stopped screaming. My voice was back, and it was forceful and loud. Blood flew all over the walls and ceiling. I could see his skull, but I didn't care. James was evidently not the same kind of monster as Leo, no. But he was a complicit being, and that's a whole other kind of beast. He let this happen to me and God knows how many other women. Leo had always talked shit about his exes, but in a passive-aggressive way that made him seem like the good guy, taking care of the damaged women. I now have tasted the fate that they received, and now I'm metaphorically vomiting the fate up. Oh shit. Now I'm actually vomiting. I saw James's brain being spilled out of his crunchy skull, and now I'm vomiting on his corpse. Oops. Once I stopped, I took a few breaths. Silence. Beautiful silence. Except for the sound of the shower running. Alex must be taking a shower. Now is my chance. I managed to stand, perhaps from my Zopanex-fueled adrenaline, and I saw myself in the hallway mirror. Staring back at me was the ghost of who I used to be. There was a red ring surrounding my mouth where Leo had sucked the life from me. My face was so thin that there was excess skin hanging around my cheeks. The most depressing part of my face was my eyes. They looked empty, no matter how I contorted my face. I tried smiling, and a little bit of their glimmer returned, but the sag skin on my face wiggled around like worms trying to make their way home. I looked old and tired, but I no longer felt that way. I felt determined. Slowly I crept into the kitchen, my knees cracking and popping with every step. I went to the kitchen and washed the blood off my face and water bottle. My arms and legs were surprisingly clean. Once I was done, I began making my way to the door and checked the time on my phone. 6:45 p.m. I still had time. Then, I heard the shower turn off. Fuck. I began hobbling towards the door, now fueled by panic. I'm so close. I'm almost there. I make it to the door and open it, only to see Leo standing there. He's home early. We lock eyes for a second, hunger and rage filling his face. "You're so entertaining," he said, with a glimmer in his eyes. "I like a fighter." He took a step into the living room as I backed up in time with him. The door shut behind him. "Be a good girl, then get back to bed." His voice and words almost made me vomit again. I can't believe someone this corny tricked me for so long. "No." My voice wavered, but I could speak. "Move out of my way." "Or what?" He chuckled mischievously. "Even if you do get out, no one will believe you. Everyone's going to think you're just some crazy bitch that hates her ex-boyfriend and is making up absurd lies about him. You look like a pathetic crackhead. No one will even give you the time of day." I had already considered this. Every woman knows that they will automatically be scrutinized the instant they come forward with allegations against any man. It was the moment that I had a realization. "I don't care," I proclaimed, getting on my high horse. "I don't give a shit if everyone I know thinks that you're a good person, because you and I both know that you're not. I don't know if you're an alien, a vampire, a cannibal, or maybe you just have a crazy fetish and learned how to unlock your jaw to fulfill it. I don't care. Honestly, it's kind of hilarious." "What's hilarious?" he asked. This was the first time his unfounded swagger was broken. "That the only way you can get pussy is if you kidnap it," I replied as I pulled my jacket off the coat rack and pulled it over his head, swinging the hydro flask across his left temple. He cried out, and I could feel him begin trying to unlatch his jaw, biting through the jacket. His teeth disappeared and his gums started gnashing at me, trying to latch onto my arm. His eyes began to grow out of his temples and extended out with stems like snails. I hit the right one with my hydro flask and it popped against his head with a wet slapping sound. Pus and blood exploded on the wall as I held back another wave of nausea. His screams sounded like the screams of every woman he had ever harmed combined into one. Suddenly, I spotted a bong on the table next to the coat rack. I grabbed it, broke the neck of it off on the table, and shoved the sharp end into his mouth and down his throat. The dirty bong water seeped into his throat as he fell to his knees and began choking and gagging. A mix of water and blood spatter into the wide end of it. I grabbed the doorknob and ran outside. It was dark, clear night, and I sputtered my car down the street. For the first time in months, I could truly breathe. The fresh air gave me strength, and finally, I began to run. The adrenaline and dreams of home fueled me the entire way. I sprinted towards my car, the red paint glistening in the air. I unlocked it as I ran up, opened the door, and flung myself into the driver's seat. The car started and worked perfectly. Thank God. I pulled out of my spot and was horrified to see Leo sprinting towards the front of my car. "Don't go. I'll die without you," he wailed, finally sounding as desperate as he truly was. He couldn't walk straight, and his good eye was dangling out of his head, pleading and begging. Thankfully, there were no cameras on the street, as there were no businesses until the end of the road. A genuine smile grew on my face as I accelerated my car and crashed into him. His body ragdolled as the front of my Mazda hit him, his torso folding in half over the hood of my car. I could hear his bones crunching as I drove over his speed bump of a body. I didn't stop to check if he was alive. Truly, I didn't care. The man I loved never existed. He was just a trick of the mind. Instinctively, I started driving towards my parents' house, and when I got to a stoplight, I tried calling my mom again. As I opened her contact, I realized that Leo had changed her number to his, which explains how he could see my message to her. My mom's phone number is the only one I've ever managed to memorize, so I typed it back into her contact and I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Mom, I escaped. I'm coming home." It turns out that Leo had been texting my family for me, so I explained the situation to my mom. The fact that he kidnapped me, malnutritioned me, assaulted me, and more. Her, my dad, and my brother believed everything. I got home, and they took me to the hospital. The doctors told me that I would have likely been dead if I stayed there any longer. After a few weeks, my body started to feel normal again. I was a normal weight again. I could run and talk and work and see my friends again. For a few months after I escaped, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. I'd imagine his face and those of the nurses, the doctors, and sometimes I'd get the sense that he was still following me, lurking in the shadows to reclaim what he thought was his. He never reappeared, though. My fears remained exactly what they were. Fears. After a while, I finally accepted the fact that I was now safe. I scoured the internet for obituaries after to confirm if he was dead or not, but I found nothing. Which either meant he's still alive, or no one cared enough about the dead bitch to write one for him. At the hospital's recommendation, I tried talking to the police about the incident, but nothing ever came of my reports. In a legal regard, Leo was right. No cop would believe that a man held me captive and literally sucked the life out of me. In all honesty, I was fine with that. I didn't care about Leo going to jail. All I cared about was that no one would face the same fate as me and the other women he did this to. The best I could do was hope that he died from his injuries and lack of food. For the next few months, I would drive past his apartment occasionally. The lights were always on, which unfortunately meant he was likely still alive. On several occasions, I considered breaking in, setting it on fire, even egging it just for fun, but I decided against it. These acts of violence would never give me closure, and neither would Leo. Deep down, I knew he would never give an explanation, so I created one for myself. Evil exists, and sometimes that evil has no reason to be evil. No explanation, no horrific backstory, and no answers. I never found out what Leo was or why he did to me what he did. Every Google search about what the creature was led me to a dead end. He never told me why he picked me, and at first, these questions ate away at me. But I've come to accept this. It takes an incredibly pathetic person to be evil for evil's sake, and that is the closure I've given myself. Leo is a pathetic, horrible monster, and the best thing I can do is prevent myself and others from becoming that evil. The best closure is the closure you give yourself, and that is what matters to me now. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It may or may not have taken me like 9 hours to record like 30 minutes, but hey, I hope you enjoyed it. You know, I do this for you guys, I do this for me, I do this because it's kind of fun in a sense, but I hope you guys did enjoy. Also, I'm getting a windscreen and a pop filter. It's on its way, so the next video should be good and have less pops and less breathing, if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. More videos soon. I'm planning on uploading every Wednesday and Friday, hopefully, because I work over the weekends. But yeah, have a good night, everybody.